Hello everyone, thanks for joining the session. Today we're going to be working on that podcast rewrite, and I did some unfortunate review of past episodes, and it looks like we've spent about 10 episodes so far, or 10 sessions, trying to get the admin section to work with being able to do imports as well. So the idea being that podcast.io/exports. I want to get the data in originally from here, properly download these URLs for the background image and the media itself, and then store it with Fly System and be able to generate downloadable URLs and things like that. It's been a real pain. The EasyAdmin interface is something I was looking forward to trying out. I sort of wanted to see how far I could take it, and it's not working very well. I've tried 2 different off-the-shelf bundles. Let's see here if they're listed here. This Vitch Uploader bundle, OneUp Uploader bundle. Both of these worked kind of, but both of them failed at a certain point, and it just didn't work very well. Mostly when I was trying to work with the import command. So trying to get these files to download from the JSON file export just wasn't working very well. I had to trick it into thinking that they were Symfony uploaded files. Yeah, it wasn't a lot of fun. So I abandoned that idea and tried to create my own Fly System asset manager. And I like how that works out. The way that things get stored in the database looks like this. Let's see if I can get oh, that's the wrong database. Here we go. So if we look in the episodes table, we can see this URL, which contains everything that we need to reference where this file is being stored in Fly System. So we tell it a Fly System, file system. Content is the name of the Fly System file system. Yeah, that's what they call them, file system. So it's the content file system, and then the path to the actual content. And then we have the content type and content length. So this is really all I need to be able to do is store this in a string within my entity. The way that it's handled within the entity is pretty nice. We are doing get pristine media. Yeah, so get pristine media assumes it's just going to be either null or a string. And then we return an instance of file create from URL with the pristine media, and then when we do set pristine media, the file instance itself has a method to turn it into a URL. So at rest within this entity, the file itself is just going to be the URL. So it's just a plain string, and then anytime on the outside that we're interacting with it, it's actually going to be a file instance that, for all intents and purposes, it's going to be a value object. But it's got a bunch of getters and setters because I wanted it to be friendly for the form side of things. This seemed to work okay until I wanted to try and make it so that we could manage this with EasyAdmin. I got far enough along that I could actually get it to show the information so that within EasyAdmin itself, within the EasyAdmin config, so background image is now one of these files. I was able to say that it's background image. The template to use was a special template here. I think I can open up real quick. No. Astrocasts file that was able to use the twig extension to get the URL for the value for that property. So this even used the EasyAdmin Lightbox stuff. This was actually stuff I copied more or less from Vitch file uploader. So this part worked okay. I was reasonably happy with that. Where it became a little more complicated was handling the form. And the problem that I ended up coming away with is that if we look at the file transformer, the way that the Symfony form system treats things is that it transforms the file into, or it transforms the data from the model into a normalized format that is just an array. So here we're taking the file, which in this case is an actual file instance from Fly System Asset Manager. So it's going to take this file. So it's going to take this instance in. The problem is that when the reverse transformation comes back, this is always going to be an uploaded file, which is not really doable because we don't have enough information in this uploaded file to really map back to a file instance that we really expected. So we tried a couple of different ways around this within the entity itself. We tried to do set pristine, background image. Let's see if we have some of these still. So get background image directory, get background image. Yeah, so we had get background image. Here we go. So we had set background image uploaded file, get background image uploaded file. We tried to do this with a, where's it at? We essentially changed this to use a virtual method. So background image uploaded file to try and trick it so that we could consume an uploaded file. This worked really well, and this actually ended up storing the content of the URL that we were replacing. So I think I might be able to try it here. Let me just see if I can do that. So let's put this image. It's possible that the save may fail entirely. Yeah. So here it is, another case of somewhere is expecting it to be an uploaded file, but we're giving it null somewhere. So I don't really know what state the code is in, but essentially what we got to was this actually creating the new version of the string for us, but it wasn't actually doing anything with that file, that Fly System Asset Manager to actually write that content. So we got pretty far into the code to override the controller that EasyAdmin was using. And essentially, we wanted to be able to do something in persist entity and update entity. The problem is, at this point in the code, we have no idea which field might have been changed. We have no idea which of the images or media content that might have changed. So there's nothing we can do to try and actually move that content. We also don't have access to the original uploaded file anymore either, so we can't actually get the source directory or anything like that where Symfony has the uploaded file that points to the place that the file was uploaded temporarily for this request. So we dug pretty far into, I think, admin controller, trying to figure out where we could actually do this. But at this point, I'm feeling like I know exactly how I would do this using just normal code. And I don't really feel like digging around EasyAdmin to try and hack around this. I just want a typical form controller that just is straight ahead and does exactly what I want. So I'm going to try and go that route. So in order to do that, the first thing I want to do is make sure we uninstall everything. So there might still be some dependencies on some of these classes. So let's see what we can do. I think we updated everything that was using the original stuff, but let's double check. All right, so podcast. All right, cool. Let's see what we have in here. So we have Fitch Uploader bundle is still in here, and one up Fly System bundle, but we don't have the upload bundle, so that's good. I don't think we tried that for very long. So let's do composer remove. Let's see how well Symfony Flex handles this, because ideally it's going to detach most everything. We did add our own dependency on bhat transliterator. So it's doing the right thing and saying that it's also a root requirement. So I don't think it's going to delete that one. Let's see what's going to happen here. So let me go ahead and remove this because this is already done. Didn't expect this to take so long. Well, if this is going to take this long, I'm going to do this twice. I'm going to actually remove the EasyAdmin as well. So we're going to remove admin. So I think that's an allowed syntax because I can just remove it by the alias. Hopefully it'll tell me pretty quickly if not. All right, so it's now listed a bunch of other things that needed to be removed. Whoa. Episode controller. Okay, so it did get stuck on something because we've added this episode controller. So let's remove that because we aren't going to worry about that. Source, EasyAdmin. All right, let's try it again. Okay, class not found section. Okay, so where are other things looking for this now? So let's look for all right, so the ingest command is one of the places that we used it. All right, so we don't want any of these things. We don't want uploaded file. And I'm guessing those came here. So I was never able to figure out how to use this combination of things to actually work correctly. All right, so I think that removed it. Which other file? Episode background image upload subscriber. I'm actually okay removing this too. This is the sort of thing that I was having to do to actually get this code to do something simple like get the width and height of the image after it was uploaded. I just set an event subscriber, make sure that the object was actually an instance of episode, see which of the mappings it was actually referring to, so that it would only do this on episode background image, and then get the information from the object itself, get the episode file real path. So I had to do this before it was actually persisted, because once it's persisted, I think I lost access to this. And then I could set the episode background image width and height. Like, this should really have been all I needed to do at the bottom of a controller method. Also, it was very tied to this specific field mapping. So if I also wanted other types of media, I'd either have to write different subscribers or make this one more complicated to do different things depending on which mapping was actually passed in. So I'm more than happy to get rid of this. I think this is going to make the whole thing just seem way more simple and straightforward, which I'm going to be enjoying. All right, so let's see if now we can run this. Okay, cool. So it looks like we're mostly done. I'm going to add a bunch of these things here. so that I have kind of a good stopping point after these changes are made. So let me check to see if the site still works. All right, so this page still works. I can still see the actual episodes. One thing that shouldn't work anymore is the admin interface. So if I go to /admin, I'm hoping to get an error. All right, so let's see, we've so far managed to remove VitJob file uploader, and we've uninstalled EasyAdmin. So now I'm going to try and create sort of some placeholders for these things. Let's go ahead and do bin console, and we'll do let's see, admin. That didn't do what I wanted it to. I don't remember if I can do it this way. There we go. So that's closer to what I wanted. All right. So I can remove this one and this one. All right, now if I go to /admin, still no route for that, so I'm okay with that. Okay, render, no. Why it's not finding that. There we go. Just needed to catch up. So I'm going to take dashboard off and just have /admin. Okay, cool. So it knows enough to render something super simple here. It's also doing this with authentication still in place. So because we have our security set up, let's look at it real quick. The way we have security set up, anything under admin is going to require role admin. And this is going to happen regardless of what is actually serving /admin. So just by being in the admin prefix, this dashboard controller is being picked up correctly. So I want to actually, I'll leave it like this for now. I think we're going to need to create another template base. So let's go ahead and use, let's see, templates, admin. Right now we have base.html. Let's just copy this into admin base. So we want to have something similar for admin, but probably not all of it. New file. All right, here we go. And then inside dashboard, index.html. So we're going to want to extend admin /. There we go. And we should be able to trim a bunch of this stuff. So we'll leave the viewport stuff. We'll use the same app CSS, at least for now, unless there might be some security issues with that. Let's just trim this down to the least possible bit. All right, div, we don't need that. Body and footer, let's ditch the footer. There we go. All right, so we still have the same overall styles and JavaScript access that we want, but we no longer have the old Chrome from the site. So let's go ahead and remove this. Say dashboard, because that's interesting. All right, and let's do a tiny bit of structure here and add a little bit of nav, just so that we can have some place to go. And before we do that, let's create a new controller, and we'll call the new controller admin episodes controller. All right, so now I'll get this one day. Need to double escape these. There we go. So I don't want this. I don't want this. All right. This is going to be helpful just to be able to target things correctly. So let's look for inside our controllers, admin episodes. So right now this is called admin episodes. I'm fine with that. Let's go ahead and open the index here and make sure we're extending admin base HTML. And inside admin base, let's do UL and let's just see what this does. All right, so we get episodes, and again, I'm just going for super basic here. I just want it to work. You know, EasyAdmin sort of made it look pretty. I just want it to work at this point. All right, so clicking episodes brings me to episodes. Looks pretty good, so I'm happy with that. Let's go ahead and play with the episodes index. And I'm going to make this look like the home page, because the home page actually did a pretty good job of this. So I'm just going to copy this. Which means I need to pass in episodes. So if I reload this, it's going to get upset. But if I go to home controller, so we get the episode repository, and we do this. So episodes controller for index, we need the episodes repository. And instead of passing in controller name, which we don't need, we're going to pass in the list of episodes. Ooh, controller name does not exist. All right, so I think that is because the title was still using the default title that wanted that controller name. Variable helpers. Ooh. I don't remember how I did those, but I don't actually care about that. Well, maybe I do. Let's go into home here. Did need to get helpers, so we'll do it in the same way. Cool. All right, so now we have an episode list on our back end that we can look at, that we can start with. So the links here actually links into the real site. So we still have to do some things to make this actually go to an edit page. I'm going to change the admin base. I'm going to add the dashboard here to the navigation. Admin dashboard, just so it looks like there's something up there. Okay, cool. All right, so now we want to have a show page. And honestly, I hate naming these things, and I don't know which thing to name it yet, but I guess I'll just have to deal with that another time. So let's go ahead and do admin episodes, show, admin episode, show. I don't remember how to do those. So let's look at the other episode controller. So we already have one doing something like this. So episode controller, just path. Okay, so this is still going to be using the I don't know if this is actually a good idea. Let's use the ID maybe instead. So we'll do ID, and then we'll just do the episode. So the way that this is going to work, if I understand this correctly, is that since we're asking for an entity here, it's going to do a find by ID. So whatever I put in here, if I put path, then it's going to expect it's going to essentially be episode repository find by path. If I do ID, it's just going to do by ID. This is not what I want, though. We want episode, and then just pass in episode. And if I go back now to the controller for episodes index, when I have the title clickable, I want the path to be to admin episode show, and instead of path, I'm going to do ID and episode.id. I think that should work. Yes. Okay. So admin episodes 6. So if I click on this, it's actually going to go to episode 6, but it doesn't know what to do with that. So let's go back into the controller here, and we'll do, instead of episodes index, we need to do episode show. And then this should error because that template doesn't exist. Let's copy it. Copy the index just so that we have the boilerplate for it. Show. And here I can just more or less paste it, I guess. So I'm going to just remove the loop, because that's going to show an episode, which eventually it's going to want to do something more interesting, I think. But for right now, I think this is going to be fine. Remove the li. Yeah, that should work. All right, so now we're showing this episode. What I'd want to do next is add a edit link so that we can actually edit it. So there's still going to be some weird things on here, like this is clickable still to click to itself, which doesn't make sense, but that's fine. So let's go ahead and do these controls. Let's add a button. I don't know if I have a button class right now, but we'll do a admin episodes edit. So we'll just make it a link for now. We can stylize it later if we need to. This is going to fail because that route doesn't exist. So So let's go ahead and go to episodes controller. I'm going to do more or less the same thing. Episodes ID. All right, so that link didn't work right. Ah, no, it does. We just need to give it some more stuff. All right, so 6 edit. The thing that I'm not 100% sure about is how it'll work to be adding new. So I'm going to add create here. Episode create. Did I say create? Yeah. Okay. So I'm not sure how you do preference, or not preference, priority with these, unless it's literally just going to be having to be up here. I'm able to guess how to doctrine. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay, so this is more or less working. So the problem is, since I have these placeholders here, so episode/episode ID, I also wanted episode/create. And when this route was below this one took precedence. So the other thing I think I could do is do this. Let me see if that'll work. Edit. So this should work anyway. Let me see if this works still. Yep, it does. Okay. So there were two ways to do this, really. Make sure that this was defined first, or make it so that this was very specifically taking an integer, or digits rather, for the ID. So either of these would have worked. I like this one because it's less dependent upon order, which isn't necessarily the best way to do things, because it's not always immediately obvious why it works and why it doesn't later. Okay, so we have edit. So I'm going to pull up some different code. Because I just want to copy and paste some stuff instead of doing all of the other junk. Registration, security, let's see, where was that? Settings, controller. All right. So now that we're in here, the things that I want to be able to edit within the form, let's start simple. So we're going to create more or less a copy of the episode, except we're going to make the episode that we're working on more simple, so that it's not actually tied to the actual entity. So let's go episode entity. Here we go. So because there's a lot of stuff going on in here, so let's create a new form type. Make form, and let's call this admin just do admin episode. Oh, really? We must have only had access to the form component because of EasyAdmin, so I guess we have to require this. This is the kind of nice thing about Symfony Flex, is that it's able to do these smart things for you, but it's also kind of weird sometimes. because things just work and then they stop working when you remove something, and what you had been relying on is all of a sudden gone. Okay, so we have the form now. Let's see here. Oh, type the, well, that, okay, so I forget. We actually have to define this first. So let's go ahead and go into form. We'll go to create a new directory called command object. And we'll call it let's do another directory called admin. And we'll call the class episode. I'll just do episode because I don't. We'll call it episode DTO. And that's the class that we need to do. So admin episode. App form. I feel like I ran into this last time too. I don't know if I'm spelling it wrong or what. It might be expecting that to be an entity, so I'm not going to worry about that. We have to do something with the data class then. So let's go to episode type. This was data class. And then we can do episode DTO. All right. So this ensures that these things are going to be talking to this episode DTO. For the field name, let's double check what we have. I think we have title. Remind me later. Let's do ID number. Let's not do ID. Number, GUID. Let's start with that just for now, just so we can get this up and running. Number should be an integer type. Title should be a string type. If that's not one we can do, let's leave it off for now. All right, so this gets us our episode form type. It should all be auto-wired on its own. So let's look at our episodes controller again for edit, and dive back into our copy and paste stuff. So this was actually getting the user from, this was editing the user's profile itself. So in our case, we're actually going to be wanting to get an episode. So we're still getting an episode. We need to create a new instance of our DTO. So we'll do $episode DTO equals new episode DTO. And then we need to create a form binding the new type. So we have the episode type to the episode DTO. The other thing we need to do in here then is to fill in this episode DTO with information from the actual episode. So we don't have any setters and getters yet. Let's go back to here. You know, I'm just going to make it simple. Let's do public. What was it? Title, public. And we had number. And so here we get to do some more validation stuff. And this is where it can be kind of nice to have this split out, because what we have split out here now is the validation stuff for the forms that is different than the validation of whether the entities are valid or not. So all of these assertions on what things are and aren't available, are and shouldn't be set, no longer lives on the entity, which can be nice in some cases, because the entity then just focuses more on its own internal state, whereas this is now dealing with how users interact with it via a form. So for here we can assert number int, no, assert it's true. I thought there was a way to say that this should be a number. No? Okay. Well, we can assert not blank for the number. Not sure if that really makes sense. The title probably shouldn't be blank. Subtitle, we actually don't care. So I'm not going to do anything there. That can be whatever people want, including null. So let's do public null. So now that we have the DTO and we have public variables, what we do here is set these to what we get from the actual episode. So the way that the edit field is going to be different than the edit flow will be different from the create flow, is the create flow won't be doing this part. Let's do get number. And then we'll do the same for subtitle. All right, so this fills our DTO with the information from the episode that came in from the URL that we're visiting. Now if we go back to our controller, the next bit we need to do is handle the request. So we tell the form, here's the type of form that we're expecting to be processed. Here's the information that represents the state of the object before the form is processed, and then handle the request. So we also need to get the request here. And then we get to do this nice little bit. So check to see if it's submitted and if it is valid. So if it is submitted and it is valid, then we can actually do something with our object, because we'll assume that the user has put the correct input into the fields that we can allow, and then we can actually persist those changes. Otherwise, it's going to fall outside of this loop, and we need to pass the form, or the view created from the form, up to the template. So we'll add that here. Rather than passing episode, we're going to pass form, create view. We'll do, that's not actually going to trigger, but at least now we'll know if something weird happens there. Let's go to edit episodes. All right, so variable episode does not exist. That's fine because we were on show. We actually want this to be on edit. And then let's go to our templates. Let's copy show for now and copy that into edit. All right, except now we aren't doing things with episode. We can't do anything with episode really. What we really need to be doing is things with the form. And the way that I'm going to do that is something that I want to get better at. I need to figure out how to do these things better. Admin, no, settings, here we go. This is sort of an easy way to get directly running with forms with a little bit of customization capabilities. So you can you could do just form, I believe, like, can't remember which of the tags it is, but you can just have it render the whole form for you. This way gives you a little bit of flexibility by calling out each thing specifically. So here we're asking for the errors, here we're starting the form, here we're ending the form, and here we are doing the actual individual field. So here we have form time zone, which is what I copied from the other package. So let's do form number. Oh. And we'll do title and subtitle as well. And what we should see here is that it should render these fields based on the types, if it works. There we go. All right, so we have number, title, subtitle, and save changes. Save changes is using a class that doesn't exist. So let's do more Tailwind fun. Let's do rounded BG green. What else? Padding Y2, padding X4. There we go. So now we've got a button to save changes. So we aren't actually going to do anything if this works right. So let's do save changes, and it just says yeah. So sort of what we expected. If I remove number, it's actually doing, well, it's the JavaScript stuff actually at this point, making sure that you're filling it in. And the reason is because it's using the required attribute on the index. So on the input. So we can see here it says required. This is the form component using the information that we've passed to make sure that things are required. Let me do this one. Let's fill this out. It was 54. Okay, yeah, so that should be fine. All right, so let's do, this is not a valid value. This value is not valid. Okay, so it is able to do some work with the form when things are bad. So what that is doing, if we look at the episodes controller, that is this case where the form is submitted, but one of the fields is invalid. So this does not happen. And so the form now contains information after handling the request that says that that particular field was broken. And so we're rendering that information here. So it's not a valid value, save changes. All right, so now what we need to do is handle this case. And if we look at the way that we did it in the other project, let's see here, source. We need to copy the information from the DTO into the actual entity, and then we need to flush the object manager. So in this case, the only thing that could possibly have changed was the time zone. So we set the time zone on the user to the value that we got from the form, and then we flush the object, which would flush the user in this case. So we're going to do something similar here. We're going to say episode set title to the episode DTO title. Same thing with set subtitle. So by using the DTO here, we're able to expose less information to the form than the whole entity, and it gives us a lot more control. So where we'll see that is on the next bit when we try to handle a file upload. Let's see, the other thing here was set number. And then this doctrine flush, I'll get manager. I think that's what we need to do, right? Yeah. And then I want to redirect somewhere. So probably going to be redirecting to episodes list. So admin episodes. And this is something that I think everybody has different thoughts and ideas on, but let's see what happens if we do this. So I'm going to change the subtitle. Actually, I'm not going to change the subtitle. Let's go back to the episode list. So the subtitle here was Hey Boss. I'm going to go in, guess how to get a doctrine instance and request information. I think that this wasn't working like I thought. Symfony route parameters. Requirements. Page. So it's a different thing. That's my bad. I thought it was actually a part of being able to do it here. All right, so we need to specify that ID in this case is only integers, or only digits. And I think we want to do the same. Well, we'll eventually want to do the same here as well, just in case. So, and that's on the generation side. So yeah, now it's generating the right URL. So it says, hey boss. If I click edit, let's do what's up. All right, so it's actually changed it. Cool. So the barest thing that we have here is we essentially have the same code that we had before, or the same functionality that we had before. Just a far fewer number of fields are working out of the box. And it's going to take work to add the individual fields. It's going to take work to generate some of this stuff. But I don't care because I think this is going to be awesome. So the next bit that we're going to need to do is see if we can get the background image working, because that's really what I care about at this point, to see if we can actually show it and store it. So just for fun, let's go to episodes index, and let's include the background image. So let's go div actually, no, it's not going to be the path. It's going to be the fly system. There we go. And then we need the file. So we need episode.background image. Let's just see what that does on our list. Okay, cool. And let's do class equals max width 100. That's actually not a proper Tailwind class, I guess. So it's max width. There we go. Medium. All right, cool. So we're able to see these things, and we're seeing just the small version of them. So they're there. We know that this is working now. Now on the edit page, actually I want to show that on the show page as well. There we go. All right, so we're going to edit this. Now we want to have it show up here. That might not be as straightforward as I'm hoping it is, but I'm guessing at the end it should be good. It's already almost 5 o'clock. I was hoping I could actually get this. Let's see how far we can get. All right, so let's do episode controller, the episode type, add background image, file type. And then edit. All right, background image. No, okay, cool. So we don't actually have that on the DTO, which makes sense. So we've got background image equals null. Yeah, let's do that. All right, so it actually has it. So it asks us for this information, but we aren't doing anything with it yet. So we want to show the background image. So we want to show the existing one. Form label, widget, help. So let's just put it at the bottom here, which we'll copy from show. So we needed to use form instead. And in the controller, we need to set this. So DTO. Okay, form state of view is equivalent to be file. All right, so this is where we are actually running into an issue. Setting data class. So the transform instance class file. All right, so I'm going to, so this is where I can do some things that I wouldn't have been able to do easily in EasyAdmin. I'm actually going to set the another DTO property, form.background image. Let's see if I can do, well, I'm going to go back to this. All right, so I'm not going to set this at all. In the DTO, background image is going to be null by default. We need to pass the episode now to the, in addition to the form, we need to pass the episode. So we'll do episode. There we go. I think that's what we need. There we go. So we have the ability to show the existing image. And then we have the ability to do something with the background image if it changes. So let's see what happens if I save this as is. Please select the file. All right, so now I need to mark this as not required. Symfony form not required. Required. the episode type. So background image, options required false. Now I think that would mean I can save here. Okay, so it didn't do any changes, so this image is still the same. So what we need to do is handle something if we actually add a file here. So if we go into episodes controller, we're doing everything else pretty easy here. What we need to do now is say if episode DTO background image, we're going to have to do something different. So if we've actually uploaded a file, this should be a Symfony uploaded file, I believe. So let's do dd all right, and let's pick this image. All right, so yep, it's an uploaded file. So we know exactly what we need to do here. Let's go into our episode. Loaded file, yeah, so we're going to use this. On the entity. So there's a function that we added here. I don't really want to use it though, so let's do this. We'll copy this out into the controller, and this file is a fly system asset manager file. We know we're going for content. This is something that we might need to abstract eventually. This is actually going to be the project, no, the episode. We'll do, so we can make this a little easier to follow. Uploaded file is going to be this. So we're setting the background image to a new file that consists of the content for the file system for Fly System. The URL path is going to be the URL path is going to be generated based on the episode that we're editing, and then the client original name, and then the client MIME type and the client size. So this should be enough to get the URL in the database to look correct. So this was as far as we were able to get with EasyAdmin. The piece that we were missing was the Fly System bit. So we'll do Fly System Asset Manager, and this is where we need to do Fly System Asset Manager. We actually need to write it. So we'll write from file, $uploaded file, get. Let's see, where's it at? Get real path. I don't know if there's a get as stream sort of thing here. So we'll get real path. In this, if this works, required parameter local path missing. All right, so this needs a file and local path. Okay, so we need to do copy this. All right, so we're setting file, and then we're passing file as the first argument here. So this was the part that we've been trying to get working for 3 sessions with any other bundle, is being able to handle this case of being able to store the file in essentially a value object, and being able to also write information to the file as a part of this whole process. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that I've been able to do this in 65 minutes. In theory, if it works correctly, we should see a different image here. If it works. No, okay, so set background image class of episode controller. Okay, so, yep. So we need to write this to the episode. So we copied it originally. This code was actually in, this code was originally in episode itself. So this was an episode instance. So let's double check. Sweet, it worked. So what we now have is something we've been trying to do for a while, which is the ability to change the content easily. It's no longer magic inside the entity itself. We're storing information. Yeah, Joe just shouted, "It worked!" in chat. So appreciate the enthusiasm. I'm pretty excited about it too. Yeah, if I open the image in a new tab, we can see it's putting it in the local fly system path that I was expecting. Pristine media. It's still doing media for some reason, so I need to do generate background image path is what I should have been doing there. But it works, so I should be able to do the same thing with the media itself, which will make me quite happy. All right, there we go. Image new tab, and it's in background image, which is what I would have expected. So it's all there. It's all good. So I'm going to call this one a wrap for tonight because I don't want to break anything because it's working and I'm excited about it. But sometimes I try to roll my own everything and it bites me. And then other times I try to use other people's stuff and it bites me. So I think this is definitely a case where this admin backend is way more easy for me to follow and understand without all of the magic that was going on with EasyAdmin. But to be clear, EasyAdmin is working great for Astrocasts. I think I've shared that already. Let's see here. I'm not having the same sort of issues here, and I think that's probably because a bunch of the information that I'm putting here is just text data. I'm not dealing with any uploads. I'm not dealing with anything but relationships. So for the most part, everything just works out of the box. I would have thought that podcast backend would be more simple than Astrocasts, but because of the way that we're handling the actual assets, everything is a little more complicated than it probably needs to be. Anyway, thanks for joining tonight. If you have questions, send me an email, ping me on Twitter. Also, I do have the ability for people to create accounts on Astrocasts now, so definitely if you've been watching these, I'd encourage you to register, and then we can start sending you all sorts of cool stuff. Not sending you cool stuff, but you'll have access to cool things as they happen. For example, if we look at watching a video, if you want to catch up on old episodes, if you're a user, it will remember where you were. So if you come back, hey, it'll take you straight to where you left off on the site. You have to watch for longer than 5 seconds for it to work right, though. So this little example didn't work. Thanks again. Have a good night. Thanks, Joe.